creating curiosity by asking better questions. This is Shed Talk. Having started his career in radio advertising sales in 1990 and then moving into television with CTV in 1991, Jeff's branding, marketing, and communication experience dates back 30 years. In 1996, Jeff started Zoom Communications, which today is known as V Strategies. V is a video production company based in Calgary. Entrepreneurism is in his blood. Having started his first company at the age of 14, a respected business leader, Jeff is known as a creative thinker, strategic storyteller, and a serial entrepreneur. His persistent curiosity has been the fuel of many of his business ventures, with the latest relating to the world of artificial intelligence. Jeff, thanks for coming to the show and thanks for coming to Shed Talk. And I haven't seen you in such a long time, and it's such a great experience to see you. This is awesome.
Absolutely great. Thanks for inviting me. Great to see you again, buddy.
Good. I got a quick question for you. I was just trolling. I love trolling on your social media this morning, and it was absolutely amazing because I got to see something that was really interesting. The bears.
Oh,
what's up with that?
So yeah, you know what? It's funny. I a couple of years ago, I bought a ranch up northwest of Cochrane, and so I got 80 acres up there, and I got these trail cameras. And every once in a while, I check them. And I hadn't checked this one camera for a couple of months, so I was ripping through it last night, and there's moose and coyote and tons of deer and everything. And all of a sudden, I see these two big, massive grizzly bears playing in front of the camera. So I got like 4 shots of these massive bears. And the funny thing about it is that this is back in the end of May. Those bears were playing in front of the camera, and they were huge at about 9 o'clock in the morning. A buddy of mine was out there that weekend, and he drove the quads by in that exact same spot about an hour later. And so it's just kind of funny because it's interesting because people go into the forest all the time, hiking, biking, everything else, and you never really know what's around you. So these trail cameras are just amazing to be able to realize that, you know, nature is all around us and you don't even realize. So anyways, that was pretty cool to see.
That was cool. And I have to ask you a question then. When a tree falls in the forest, do you actually hear it on a trail cam?
Sometimes you do if it's right in front of the trail cam. Absolutely.
Yeah, because that was a pretty cool. And then I'm going, holy crap! If you were like an hour away from that, and then you're going in there, and those are big. Like I was going, are you going to run into this? Is this going to be a storytelling? Is this going to be one of those oh my gosh moments?
Well, and I think my buddy has some bad luck because a couple of days before that he was out there and he had just missed a big black bear by about 8 minutes on the quads. So it's just my one buddy. So I don't know if they're going after him or what the deal is. But anyways, it's gorgeous. It's kind of my my little haven away from the city. So
that is awesome. Awesome. And a little bit about entrepreneurship and stuff like that and having this 80 acres. I have to ask, what is a serial entrepreneur?
Well, you know what? It's funny because you know, my background is similar to yours, and you and I have always connected this way. We've known each other for, 20, 30 years. Yeah. I started out in my first business. I was 14 years old. I had no idea what business was all about. I saw a guy who had a mountain bike, and I didn't even know what a mountain bike was at that time. And he said he worked for a cycling courier company out of Calgary, and I lived up in the Edmonton area. And I said to my dad, I got home, I goes, well, I'm going to start a cycling courier company in this little town of 10,000 people. And so I started my first company at 14, didn't know what I was doing. I started my next company, a little video production company doing weddings and funerals for all things when I was 18. And I've started multiple businesses and I don't know what got into me and where the entrepreneurial bug came from, but I think like I have no formal education. I got a high school, strong D- average. And I think it's just that curiosity of just trying to solve problems and help people is where my business ideas come from and how I get into it. And again, similar to you, you and I have talked, we just work our asses off and that's.
Oh my God, we try. And that's the thing is we try things that nobody else would ever try, new ideas for 20 years. Cause I remember when we first met and I think we were in the Banff Springs and an EO function and having that conversation with those entrepreneurs. And we were young because I was in radio way back before this. And then you got into it and with CTV and doing sales and absolutely amazing job that you've always done. But I remember our lifelines and looking together, boy, we were like, connected going, okay, well, we got to do, that's right. Cause we're going into forum together and we were going to do the same thing. And as an entrepreneur, really striving and pushing ourselves to better and being curious and asking better questions. And then it's one of those things we go to ourselves. Here we are 20 years later. I say 20, probably 30 years later. And we would ask ourselves, what did we do back then to brought us to where we are today? And this is the most magnificent thing, because you take V strategies, we'll go back in Zoom communications way back in the day. How much has that changed?
Oh, drastically. I mean, back in the day when you were selling radio, I think you were QR, right? And I was a CTV. The way the media business has changed, is dramatic. And then the video production business. So we started our company. Funny thing is the story is we started as Zoom Communications back in 1996. We changed our name to V Strategies in 2014. I should have kept it Zoom, and I actually should have figured out a video conferencing solution. I'd be way better off. But yeah. But I think it's just a matter of even back then, it was just, I didn't even know the business. I didn't even know much about video production. I sold advertising. We had a production company that did the producing work. I've always just been curious about, how does the edit system work? How does the cameras work? And then as the technology has changed, because now, our first edit suite when we started the company was $350,000. Our camera was, I think, about $120,000. You've got a camera on your iPhone that's 100 times better for $700-800 than the technology we're using. So we're constantly having to keep up to the technology. And a lot of people get frustrated. A lot of people get scared of new technology. I've always just embraced it because you're not going to change it, And I think that's with business, even the way you promote yourselves. I mean, you and I were on the awards.
The awards bandwagon. Oh, that is the greatest story ever, is the awards bandwagons. And you know what? A lot of entrepreneurs and young people have no idea what the awards bandwagon is. And because we're a little bit older, we know about that. So we talk a little bit about that awards bandwagon, how that actually works.
Well, that's the funny thing. Like, I remember you were better at it than I was, but I mean, you get all these Entrepreneur of the Year awards or small business awards and everything else, and you just apply for all of them. We kind of had a template, and I think you had as well. You just had a template for your applications. You just put your name into everything, and every once in a while you get nominated. If you got lucky, you won. But a lot of the times I found, because we've produced a lot of videos for a lot of these award shows, sometimes for a category, they have 3 nominees that they need, and they'd only get 2 submissions. So sometimes I just get in by default. But the exposure you would get for your business and the publicity you would get by going on this bandwagon. I mean, I've got all kinds of awards, and they don't really mean a lot to me, because I know some of them I just got in by default, but they were great promotion for our companies.
Well, I look at it like this, like the awards bandwagon. You can't tell people how good you are unless you tell yourself. We've had so many people say, well, you know what? I'm kind of shy. I don't want to put myself out there. We're really good. We have good customer service. We're really good at what we're doing. Stop that.
Yep.
Tell people who you are. Yeah. Be proud and who you are and where you are. Now, we're not the woke crowd. No. But we're about actually who we are and how great our company is, because no one's going to advertise you as better you are, and get the media to say, you know what, that's why we're great. And we were on every single platform we possibly could, and we were known great. And you and I, we've balanced off each other that way. And boy, did we grow. Did we have so much fun. We were the magazines we were in. And still in. Now, this isn't a stop. This isn't a stop. Okay, we did it before. We're still in it. Like this podcast that I'm creating right now, Shed Talk. Yep. Why? Because I need to be ahead of the curve in advertising and marketing and branding and being great of who we are, because I'm older. Yep. Now, how do I look at myself to get bigger? Yep. As in yourself, we talk about AI. Yep. We talk about video production. What a great transition, because you said how much your machines were going from 350,000 or 250,000. Then all of a sudden you were always ahead of this curve. If you read it in the paper, you see it, it's already too late. Guys, we have to be on top of it. And when we were talking the other day and you'd mentioned to me about AI, and I said, wow, that's totally Jeff. Are you kidding? Here's a guy that's actually leading the curve, because when you switched over your media and doing different stuff, but you were ahead of it. Now, tell me a little bit about this AI, because this was the really thing that got my aha moment up and going, interesting.
Hey, take a minute and smash that subscribe button, and let's get back to the episode.
Well, I think it goes back to that word curiosity that you mentioned. I mean, I think that the curiosity is the piece that's gotten me. And I take it back a step. I mean, we started a company called Jetstream Digital Media back in 1999. And it was because we heard that people were streaming audio and video files. And we went, well, let's start a streaming company. back then, if you remember the old 56 dial-up connections, a lot of younger people would even remember, you had 56K or even 14K dial-up connections, and we were trying to stream audio and video through them. So we got into that business out of curiosity. 6 years later, they created YouTube. I wish I would have had the idea for YouTube, but I mean, we got into it. We also got into the cannabis space with learning and for workplace learning around safety around cannabis. We started a little company doing that. We started another company called Mammoth XR that does augmented reality and virtual reality production. And so what I've done through the years is I've heard about these things like you mentioned, and then I find people that know more about it than I do, and I latch onto them and I try and bring my business knowledge to their expertise in the area. And so that's where we are right now with the whole AI space is, you just mentioned to me before we started about, where were you when 9/11 happened? And pretty much everybody remembers exactly where they were. I remember I was on my office on 8th and I remember seeing it on the screen, everything. And you asked the question of, do you remember where you were when you heard about ChatGPT? I do. I mean, this was back in January and I've been aware of AI technology and been following it for years, but I hadn't really been tuned in. And a buddy in the dressing room at hockey said, "Oh, have you checked out ChatGPT yet?" And I was like, "No." And I went home and I checked it out. And that was like, I can remember that moment because it was kind of like a wow. So that sparked the curiosity. I found a guy that we worked with, an amazing individual who hopefully you'll have on your show here soon, Carl Ye. And he's the real knowledge around AI. But, there's quotes coming out from places like Bloomberg that they're saying AI technology is going to be bigger than electricity and definitely bigger than even, the internet. That's their prediction on how much of an impact AI will have on the future of humanity.
Well, and it's like one of those things people go back and in life. So we go back to the 1900s and stuff like that, the Industrial Revolution, and they say, "Oh yeah, this is going to happen." What they said. Now, one of the quotes or we were talking the other day was about horse and buggy. Think of horse and buggy and what that industry was, and everybody, "Oh, there's no way. We've got stables. We've got this. The roads are all set up. The infrastructure's set up. Everything's done for horse and buggy." And then literally overnight, how that revolutionized and changed everything. Just that, a horse and buggy. And you wouldn't even think of that today. Yeah. And AI is at that cusp of change.
Yeah. I think that's human nature, though. I think you get people that are curious individuals and not afraid of failure and not afraid of exploring things. And then you get ones that either have their head in the sand or somewhere else.
That is so true.
And I think that, we saw this when the cameras changed. Like for my first camera that we bought for $125,000, when they came out with DSLR cameras, I remember going to a conference in Vegas every year, and all the old film guys are like, "It'll never replace film. You just can't replace film." And it's like, well, yeah, you can. You can replace horse and buggy with automotive. True. You can replace old film with it, and it came along, but because they didn't see it right in front of them right away, they couldn't see into the future as to where it's going. And I think that's where we are now with AI is a lot of people. We did a short little survey with a bunch. We did send out to about 30 different people, business owners, and said, "What's the impact you think AI is going to have in your business, and are you going to invest in AI?" Just to get a bit of a sense. And a lot of people surprisingly said, "Oh, I think it is going to impact us. I'm just not sure, but we're not going to really put much time or effort into it because we're not familiar with it." We can get really busy in our lives, whether it's our business lives or our personal lives, and it's really easy to ignore what's going on around us. But then, like you said, it could be too late. Like, it doesn't hurt to look into something new like AI technology if you're in business. It doesn't, there's lots of stuff out there that you can play with that isn't a big financial commitment, isn't a big time commitment. And if you're not afraid of failure, you're not afraid of all the scare tactics out there, like AI is going to be Terminator and they're all going to kill us and everything. I'd rather know what's going to kill me than to have a blind eye to it.
Well, it's kind of like Star Wars, Terminator, The Matrix, everybody, the fear mongering that's going on. And what I really find really interesting, and going back when we talk about that time that I first heard of AI, how many people, "Oh my God, that's going to change everything." You know what? So let's do some numbers here. Let's put some numbers together. They're not real numbers. I'm just going to make them up, but it'll give you that sense. All of a sudden, a great idea comes out. AI, ChatGPT comes out. 50,000 people hear about it. 20,000 people will go, oh, it's going to change and revolution. The other one, they really don't care. Out of the 20, the 1% of the 1%, say 5 people will actually do something with it. It's kind of like the Brieks of the world. Oh, I wish I shoulda, coulda, woulda's. And where entrepreneurship comes in, that curiosity, the guys that are asking ourselves better questions and saying, how does AI help my business? Things you know that you don't know. And we're going, and okay, how do I drill down? And when you sent out the survey, is it going to help your business? Yes. But what's a better question to ask ourselves to say, how do I make it work for me? Because first in, first win. Okay. Anybody, we all have the greatest ideas in the world. But the greatest ideas are the guys that are doers, the guys that put it down and do it, which is Jeff right here, serial entrepreneur, Kevin Halliday. I'm doing podcasts. Why? Because I believe in going, hey, we can go crazy here. And AI has actually helped me out because take myself, and I'm going to use this as an example. I'm dyslexic. Okay. So I have issues reading. Okay. My sense instructions are a little bit off here, but all of a sudden you deal with cell phones came out. Okay. 68 billion cell phones. Now, all of a sudden we're all absolutely geniuses. Cause now I got ChatGPT and I go, can you write this response for me? Bang. And now guess what? I'm doing a podcast. Why? Because I'm a great writer and I can write a book without writing a book. Like it's really interesting to see this whole thing as entrepreneurs and growing and seeing what you're doing with the actual AI. So,
well, and that's the neat thing about it. I mean, we're actually in the process. We haven't launched it yet. We're in the process of starting up an AI agency. The name of it is 0 to 60. The number 0 to 60.ai. And the whole idea behind this is that our goal is to go in and work with business owners and executives to be able to help understand the technology. Because, like I said, I'm not the smart guy. I know about this much about AI, but it's probably this much more than the average individual. But I've got guys that I've attached myself to that know this much. And so our goal is to go in and help really well-run businesses that are maybe, lacking the access or the knowledge as it relates to AI so that we can go and help them stay competitive. Because, I don't know how an engine runs. I kind of have an idea in a car.
Right.
But all I want to do is turn the key and step on the gas and go from point A to point B. I really don't care about how many horsepower it has or how many the cylinders. Like I don't even understand that crap. And that's what I find right now where AI is at, is that AI has still got a lot of people talking about cylinders and horsepower and, and I think but that's going to change quickly. Because if you look back, when you take a look at computers in the early days of the internet, it was highly technical and you had to be a coder to try and understand what's going on. And that's why people were like, I won't use it. As soon as it got to a point where it was easy and simple and I just had to turn the key and step on the gas, everybody jumped on it. And so that's where I think we are right now with AI, is that it's coming along rather quickly. And you talk about things like everybody, when they talk about AI, most people refer to ChatGPT.
Yes. And that's where I was... What's so much difference?
There's so much more out there. So ChatGPT is a large language model, but there's also Bard and Claude and, Bing taps into ChatGPT. There's all these other ones that are out there, and it all has to do with machine learning and, there's quantum computing, like there's all this technical stuff. But I think when you look at the actual applications, there's pi.ai, which is your personal assistant. It's kind of like having your own, psychologist travel around you. You ask it questions or tell you how it's feeling, and it kind of says, well, what about this? And it's funny how you kind of play around these things. You got the graphic ones. And again, there's hundreds of them coming out daily. So I can't even keep up with how many are out there, but like Midjourney or even Bing Image Creator. So this new company, I was like, well, I need a name for the company. So I used a ChatGPT. Can you give me 20 potential names for a business? And it rolled these things out, give you an idea. Then I used another program to create the logo for this company. And then I actually went and I used AI technology to write the full business plan and build customer personas. And then I went out and created a list of social media posts. And then what I can also do is then use another program to create images to support my social media posts. All of this stuff that we used to be paying an agency or a designer for or a writer for, tons of money, we now have access to that. So that's the good part as the business owner, but it's also the scary part for how do you keep people employed?
Well, it's kind of one of those things you don't know. basically where we're at today, we will create jobs in the future, that jobs that we don't know that we have today. So by that eliminating this, we're going to create this instead. So the things you know that you don't know, we have no idea, because this is happening. Creature, you right now just telling me that story, and in business, because I have a bunch of businesses, and I'm listening to that, and I'm going, yeah. Number one, that hits me. Yeah. Yep. I have to do this. Yeah. I've got a social media team. Yep. I have that team. Yeah. I have that team. I'm thinking, wait a second. That is a great business plan of attack and a plan, because I'm looking at I have no idea.
Right.
So ChatGPT versus AI. Okay. What does that look like? Putting this together. Now I got to practice it, but putting that whole model together in the first step.
Hey, take a minute and smash that subscribe button, and let's get back to the episode.
And that's what this agency is that we're looking at doing. Is we're first and foremost, it's educating our clients on just what AI technology is and the applications for it. It's also doing an analysis to kind of where you could incorporate into your business kind of immediately for some quick wins, and then plan it out kind of longer term. We met with our buddy Kurt Enders,
yep.
Checker Cabs. And when you think about the way AI could be used, I mean, you could use it for predictive information. So you take all the data in the city of Calgary as to, let's say, the airport. You'll be able to take that data and predict how many cabs you need outside of the airport at 8:37 p.m. on a Thursday night in October. You'll be able to predict and say, okay, I need 7 cabs there. Rather than having 45 cabs lined up and all these guys not making money, you'll be able to use the predictive information and AI technology to be able to go, we need 7. We need 12 there at 9:45.
Does that mean that I have to create an app for that or anything like that?
Well, it's an app, but there's programming involved with taking all of the data and being able to analyze it.
Is that something you guys would do?
We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do the coding. Right. We would help you find somebody who could build out an application like that. Oh, okay. So we're not doing the actual coding. It's more a matter of, we're kind of your internal chief AI officer or AI operator. Right. So we're going to be there to kind of guide you and help you find out the solutions.
So that information gatherer to get me, instead of me looking up the information, by the way, here's how we need you to do this. Because talking like that, I'm going, wait a second, that just saved me six weeks of training, 6 weeks of this, and then the learning curve, and going, oh, okay, here it is. Because I look at social media and I go, have somebody else write my copy for me, so like a ghostwriter or whatever. And then, okay, now how do I implement that? How do I do this? Okay, then you see on social media, oh, we have these apps, and then here's our trailers versus trial and error. And what's interesting, you got to get a young kid, okay, some young kid going in there that, oh yeah, I got to get my kid to do it because he's really good at it, versus, well, that's great, let me show my kid how to do it. So it's kind of that reverse on it.
Well, and I think you got to look at all this stuff as a return on investment too, because, it's not, AI has come up as a hot topic real quickly, but AI is nothing new. Right. It's been around for years. They've been working on it for years and years, of technology. It's really just ChatGPT that all of a sudden put everything on the map real quickly for everybody. But I think from a business standpoint, again, like for something like Kurt's business, that's maybe not something he's going to do in the next 6 or 12 months, but maybe 3 or 5 years, he'll have a program like that.
And it creates curiosity because he's asking a question that he knows it's possible to actually do that. Prime example, I'm doing 3D printing.
Yep.
I had no idea. I knew about 3D printing, but I had no idea. And then all of a sudden I was asking the better question. All of a sudden, well, when you're doing this, how does 3D printing? And I didn't even know that was even possible. You can do it in an hour. Here's how it is. And it's very inexpensive. And it was like, things you know that you don't know. And I'm able to ask better questions and curiosity and going, well, if I can do 3D printing, well, how does ChatGPT do? Well, the best design would be whatever that storytelling is, and where we're at on it. So it's kind of interesting.
The interesting thing with like the ChatGPT too, and a lot of AI applications, is it's about the prompting. It's the information that it's scraping. So really an AI, solution like a ChatGPT, it scrapes the internet, it scrapes information, or chatbots will scrape PDFs or other data that's out there. So there's lots of other issues. Like if you have good data, you'll get good responses, but you also need to have good input. So it comes down to prompting. So the questions that you ask of ChatGPT or Bard or any of these other, large language models will determine the answer you get back. So for example, we would go in and help companies educate themselves on prompting or create a prompt library for them. So my son, who's just finishing off a 4th year business degree, I said, what did you guys learn about AI in school? Nothing. And I was like, okay. So he's been working for me for the summer and studying and doing a bunch of research on AA technology, and just finished a course on prompting. And he's like, he says he's probably, light years ahead of his counterparts at school just because of this knowledge that he has. Because there's a quote that I saw, and somebody said, is AI going to replace humans? And the individual said, AI isn't going to replace humans, but humans with AI skills will replace humans without AI skills.
Totally makes sense.
So if you don't know how AI works, or you're not open to learning it or understanding it, you're going to be left behind real quickly.
So do you feel like in the school board, so where he's at, and he's been in school, and all of a sudden they didn't attack that right away? Because here he is for the summer. He knows more about it. In, first win. Here we go. Yep. He'll be that guy that's the entrepreneur that he's going to be set to go to the next level. Are schools missing out on this?
Well, I think it's because it's come up so quickly. I think schools will catch on quickly. Companies will catch on quickly. Okay. We're doing some courses for some companies now on educating employees on AI technology through with video production, just because it's come up so quickly. But my daughter, who's going to be a school teacher, I said, you need to learn this stuff too. She goes, why? I said, because when you get out into the teaching environment, I would say there's probably a 95% chance you're going to have an AI assistant teacher in your classroom with you. So you'll lean on that AI assistant to help educate your kids. It won't replace a teacher necessarily, but it'll be there with you.
Will it be a blow-up doll?
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah. But I also think when you take a look at when you talk about employment and everything, the big concern though is that what happens when you replace a lot of those frontline workers, people working in McDonald's, minimum wage jobs, administrative jobs that can be replaced with AI technology, where you only need one person on your comms team now rather than 5. That's kind of the dark side of AI that you're going like, right. What do you do with them?
Well, what's interesting because of that, okay, so let's use that examples. So you got guys that are working at McDonald's, they're doing it great. But now let's go to the reverse. Let's talk about the trade industry. So I'm in the trade industry and I look at these guys. Right now in the trade industry, we have a labor shortage. Why do we have a labor shortage? Well, everybody wants to get into tech. They want to get into this. And the dollar figure in tech it's $200,000. Well, a lot of people don't realize for education purposes, you love working with your hands, you like working with people. Sure, you don't have the math or the background on that, and that's okay. You can make $200,000 in the trade. We are so short on tradespeople. And it's not necessarily AI is going to affect it, but AI is going to, and you say the dark side, here's this light shining armor. Here's a guy working at McDonald's, and McDonald's is a great place, by the way, because it's a great training tool about leadership, about processes, and man, it's absolutely amazing. But what's the greatest thing is these people that are working there can actually jump into a trade, low education, but make big bucks and be entrepreneurs, be whatever they want to be. Yeah. And in electricians and stair business and everything that I'm doing and the training there, it is such a Wild West right now. And speak of Wild West, podcasting, you take podcasting, this is the Wild West. People get into it, great people. And then people get to hear what we get to say. So trades, podcasting, there's such great opportunity. And I think AI is going to actually open that up and say, hey, by the way, well, I'm stuck on AI. I lost my job too. Well, yeah, you lost your job. But what are the things you don't know? Ask yourself a better question. Maybe there's a company we need to start and create something else, whatever that widget will be. So that's where I come in.
I think that's what we have to be conscious of as companies go, oh, well, I can use AI to replace employees. I think from a society, we need to go, okay, but how do we move those people into trades jobs or jobs that still require hands-on work? Because the problem that you have is that if you don't address that, and that's why you have guys like Elon Musk and Wozniak and everybody really concerned about AI, is that if you just go for increased profitability, there's guys saying that they figure there's the first $1 billion company is going to be created with less than 5 employees, right? Because of AI technology. Even with our agency, we're going, where do we use AI and less people? And it's not that we don't want to support people. It's just a matter of you can be more efficient. But I think as a society, we have to make sure that we think about that as we're making that change.
Well, it sounds like oil and gas. It sounds like the oil and gas industry and between the two. So you've got clean energy versus this AI versus the old thing, a different question going, okay, what's more important, the cart before the horse? And then where does that come into play? So very interesting.
Right now, even the strike with the writer's strike, and a lot of that has to do with AI and Hollywood. I mean, they're worried about, they're saying, well, AI is going to take over our jobs. And I hate to say it, but yeah, it's going to, because I don't need to pay a writer $500,000 a year to write a movie when I can use AI technology to write a script for me for a movie. So where does that writer find, similar employment? I believe too, that I don't think you're going to have music stars or even actors in the future. I don't think you're going to have an Arnold Schwarzenegger, because I think that AI technology will be able to create characters themselves, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, that isn't an actual human, because Mickey Mouse doesn't go on strike. Mickey Mouse doesn't ask for a raise. Mickey Mouse doesn't bitch and complain. Mickey Mouse, they just keep using. And so I think you're going to see actors, real human-like AI characters created from the movie studios. And I also think that with music, with artists, you're not going to see a Taylor Swift 20. You might still see it, but I think that there'll be more created.
I can create more movies, younger movies with these guys right now, and I can have 5 sequences. I can have 15 James Bond with the same James Bond guy, but a different story. But all of a sudden, over 20 years, Star Wars, prime example. Here it is, our character, and then we just changed it up. That's interesting.
Hey, take a minute and smash that subscribe button, and let's get back to the episode.
And I think that when you think about that, it all of a sudden go, okay, so where are the Taylor Swifts? Where are these musicians? And a lot of people. So another example, I have some out at my ranch. I have some paintings up on the wall, and I don't know. I paid $4,000 for these couple of these paintings. They're beautiful paintings. They're abstract mountain scenes, and I just thought to myself, what could I not create one myself? So I went on and I used Midjourney, and I created an image, a mountain scene, an abstract of Rundle Mountain out by Banff. And I thought, that's pretty. And it was all based on prompts. And then what I did is I took that image and I used an online printing tool, and I got I don't know how big it is, 2 feet by 3 feet, something like that. Got it printed online. It cost me $142. And I got it hanging on my wall. And people that come into my place don't know the difference between the $3,000 or $4,000 painting and the $142 painting. And I created it myself.
Right.
So now where do artists go? And I have people arguing and saying, well, it's not the same. I'm like, really? No, it's not the same. It wasn't a human that was behind it. It's not a human necessarily writing a song, but do the masses really care?
No, I get this beautiful picture for $140. It is, yeah.
So now where does that artist go to make a living? That's kind of that's the stuff you
That is a great question, and something they have to work on.
You think about, you guys have designers. You have people going into places. You'll be able to replace that. People will be able to design.
Well, we're doing that now, actually, with CAD and AutoCAD, and then we're actually integrating it in. So you give us a blueprint.
Yep.
Okay, so you get a blueprint, and we actually do the staircase inside of it, put the substrates on it, everything, and then we 3D print it. Yep. So you don't just get a picture anymore. You actually get a 3-dimensional, printed item of scaled exactly what you get, and it's never been done. And we're looking at this and going, this is possible. Yeah, this is possible. Here's the technology, and this is where it's going. And I'm just going, wow, life is great, especially opportunities. So it's really cool.
And it is great. And again, I think it's always this flip flop, right? Because that's what I'm always trying to analyze. I'm going, there's always the good side of it. And you think about the technology. I mean, my 82-year-old dad is on TikTok watching videos. He's FaceTiming me. He's using all of this stuff. And if you would have said that 20 years ago, you would have went, yeah, right. Like, it's just not going to happen. But things do move rather quickly. And so, but there's also the downside of it.
Right.
And I think that's what we just want to think about as business owners and community, minded people, is going, how do you avoid having, hundreds of thousands of people that used to make $15, $20 an hour, freight alarm jobs, admin jobs, not be out on the streets, and maybe there's not enough electrician jobs and, framing jobs. Right. What do you do with those? A lot of people in the AI space are saying, well, what you need to do is you need to tax the heck out of AI companies so that you have enough money in the coffers to be able to cover some of these potential societal issues in the future. So again, it's just, you could go on and on about the pros and cons and the.
It's kind of like going down Chat GPT down the rabbit hole. Oh, wait, let's ask a prompt to better question, better question. Then we put ourselves into that whole proverbial rabbit hole and go, oh my God.
Yeah. So even our business, the video business, we've had editors and shooters and writers and everybody on staff. Well, now we use Chat GPT or similar type models to write scripts, and then we fine tune them. There's programs now where we used to go and shoot, 5-6 hours worth of video footage, some interview footage, some B-roll footage, stock footage, and have to sort through it and pick out the clips. Well, now there's AI technology where we can put all that footage in, and it'll go through all of the A-roll footage, the interview footage, like an interview like this. You could run it through and it'll pick out some of the best clips and give you recommendations from our hour-long conversation to say, here's the best 20 minutes.
Oh.
Whereas that used to take us a manual process. It now cuts it down. And then you're going to have programs that will edit it together. So even our business, we're going, video editors, we need to adapt to this technology. And what it means is that people will be able to produce higher quality video content for their businesses for way less money.
Right.
And they might not even need guys like us.
Interesting.
So I'm looking and going, wait a minute, looking through the windshield going, where's the future of our business?
And you're already ahead of the curve and where you're at. Awesome.
We are, but it's just,
here
how
we
much
go.
further?
Good. Awesome, Jeff. You know what? Thank you very much for joining me today. That was intriguing, curious, and everything like that. Thank you very much. And we're going to make sure that we stick together in the next 20 years so we do it again. I want to bring you back on later on in the future because we can really dig deep into curiosity and AI. So thank you very much and for joining me on Chet Talk.
Thanks, Kev.
Thank you.
Now you know.
Shed Talk.